Hi, hello, and welcome back. My name is Zach, Likes Comics, and I hope you're all having a fantastic day. It is Wednesday, which means it is New Comic Book Day. And ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited to take you along with me on this somewhat gloomy Wednesday, as I'm going to take advantage of the weather today and use today as my art study session. I have a few different comic sketches I've been working on over the past few days, and I wanted to use today as a way to finish both those illustrations and document my journey in doing so. On top of that, we're going to hang out with some friends. We're going to see what we can find on this New Comic Book Day. But first things first, we got to get ready for the day. It would not be New Comic Day without the outfit plus read of the day. First things first, you already know. So for today's outfit of the day, I threw on my butter skateboarding graphic with a pair of Levi's denim shorts. For the shoes, I have on my Air Jordan 1 black, red, and white mids. And then for the read of the day, most importantly, I wanted to go ahead and read issue number 1 of Fireborn. This is from the world of Lost Fantasy, and I heard nothing but good things about issue 1. And with issue 2 coming out today, I wanted to get fully caught up so I can just jump right into issue 2. So I'm going to get back to you afterwards with my thoughts. I just finished reading issue 1 of Fireborn, and I thought this was an amazing setup. This introduces us to Aaron Hilberg, a young teenage boy who is a lot like most kids his age, dodging any and all responsibility given to him, misunderstood by his parents, and hating his billionaire father in peace. But that is all about to change as he stumbles upon a mysterious dragon egg that bonds to him and unlocks an entire ancient lineage of magic hidden within Aaron. And now Aaron is on the run as everything from outlaw wizards to supernatural warlords are on the hunt for Aaron and will stop at nothing to separate him from the dragon egg. I thought this was an amazing first issue, introducing us to an entire cast of characters, giving us an entire origin story with amazing pacing, dialogue, and action throughout. And I just loved this first issue. I thought this was an amazing introduction to what seems like it's going to be a really fun series. I am definitely wanting to get more into the world of Lost Fantasy after picking up and reading Fireborn. This is a part of the Lost Fantasy universe for those of you that don't know, and I highly recommend picking this up if you're a fan of things like Absolute Batman, Invincible, How to Train Your Dragon. If you read issue 1, I would love to hear in the comments down below what you think. The other day I came to a great stopping point in this illustration, and that was in my outline. So today I'm going to finish this illustration and do all of my shading, and you can see where I have some pencil lines for where I want to put my shading, and then do all of my highlights in color. So this will come together to be a full illustration today. In the future I do plan on doing a background, but I want to work in the next few weeks on just backgrounds so that way I can really put attention to the background of this after I finish. And then I have one more illustration that I'm going to be working on today, and this one's going to be a little bit more time consuming because I still have to do all of my outlining before I do any of my shading and colors. So this one will be done second after we finish. I am almost finished now with doing Miles' suit, and a lot of Miles' suit is just black, so it's almost like you're doing shadowing. But for this illustration in particular, this isn't my shadows. There is another part of the illustration which is his clothing, and that is what I plan on shadowing. And so I have a bit of outlines in place for his clothing and where I want to do highlights and where I want to do shadows. I just started doing all of Miles' clothing, and I was having a bit of a tough time kind of deciding what I wanted to do with the colors for shadows on his jacket, because I'm going to have his hoodie be kind of the same red as his suit. And I was just like contemplating in my head how dark I wanted to go for the shadows, and I think I've finally figured out the color that I want to use. but I had that same dilemma just a few moments ago whenever I was doing the shorts, and I was kind of trying to figure out how dark I wanted to go for my shadows versus my highlights on his shorts. I'm almost complete with this illustration, and I am so happy with how this is turning out. As you can see, I've done all of Miles' suit, so that is all of the black and red you see there, and most of his clothing. The only piece I have left now to do is the outline of his hoodie and doing the shadows and shading on his hoodie, as well as doing his Jordan 1s, and then this illustration will be fully complete for me to show you. Now that I'm at the final parts of this illustration, which are just the highlights and shading of his hoodie, this is coming together so nicely, and I am just so happy with how this is turning out. This is exactly how I kind of envisioned this in my head whenever I started doing this illustration a few days ago and kind of getting the bare bones of this made. I think something that is really important that I've kind of noticed is repetition. Finding my art style is something that has been really fun to do, but also something that requires lots and lots of repetition in order to kind of find exactly what your style is. Finding reference from multiple different artists, so whether that be from media that I consume, so example being Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse, with the art style and visual direction of that, or something like Star Wars with the retrofuturism of that, or the retrofuturism in video games such as Marathon, taking inspiration from different comic book artists, whether that is someone like Mark Cicchetto and his posing. I'm at the final step right now, which is doing both of my shoes, and this has came together exactly how I imagined. I'm so happy with this illustration, and I cannot wait to show you this, because this is honestly better than I envisioned whenever I was coming up with this in my head and kind of outlining and creating the bare bones of this. I wanted to do something that kind of showed the swagger, so to speak, of Miles Morales and his outfits, as well as his stylization, and also just his movement and posing. And I think this has articulated that very well. I'm just so happy with how this has come out. And the only step now is to do my shading, which is here, and this is honestly looking so much better than I had hoped for. Sometimes I get a little nervous because with markers you have a lot of control, but you don't have full control because of things like bleed and things of that nature, and once it's on there you can't erase it, unfortunately. So that's always a bit nerve-wracking for me, but I think this has turned out exactly how I would hope for. As you can see, I have now completed my Miles Morales illustration, and I am so happy with how this turned out. I had high hopes for this, but I was not expecting it to come out this well. I've been trying to figure out my art style, as I mentioned before, and taking inspiration and reference from multiple different media and multiple different artists, and it's so cool to be able to incorporate them all into one particular illustration and see how it comes out, especially with my bits of shadows and detailing being referenced from multiple different comic artists, as well as my little details of animation throughout being referenced from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I just love how this turned out. Now that I have this illustration fully complete, I wanted to do a second illustration today of Miles and Venom and do two different characters on a double page spread. And so I have all of my outline now done for this illustration. So the next step is to now do all of my shadows and shading, and then do all of my coloring and highlighting. So I'm gonna go ahead and document the process of doing this. I think first I'm gonna start small and go with Miles because he's much smaller on this illustration. As you can see, he's coming out of the top right corner, and the onomatopoeia just saying whoosh as he's coming down to Venom and about to land on him. And I think that's gonna look really cool once I get this fully complete. I'm very excited to see how this illustration turns out as opposed to my last, because I did something a bit different on this one than I did on my last one, where I am incorporating the use of the webbing as a part of highlights in Miles' suit. So I think this is gonna turn out really nicely, but I'm just trusting the process as I'm going along and just following along with what I've made as my outline for my highlights and my shading, and just trusting that the entire time. And I think this is gonna come out really nicely. I now have Miles fully illustrated, and I am so happy with this results. I think this is going to turn out amazing. So now all I have to do is Venom, and then I'm gonna do some outline work and maybe some 3D work for my onomatopoeia, but we'll see. But this is coming together so nicely. I'm just so happy with the results. As I mentioned before, I wanted to do a bit of highlighting with the webbing for Miles in his suit, and I think it turned out really nicely. I'm just so happy with these results. I've been going back and forth deciding what colors I wanted to use for Venom, and this is something that I find is a bit challenging because Venom has multiple different color variations throughout media, whether that be comics or throughout video games like Marvel vs. Capcom, Insomniac Spider-Man, or even Marvel Rivals. So trying to decide what colors I wanted to do for Venom, I think I've finally locked an answer in, and I'm gonna do a lighter blue for his main color, and then for his shadows doing some darker, deeper blues. So I think for his main color, I'm gonna do something similar to like a cerulean blue, which is the closest I have to almost a cyan. And I think that's gonna look really nice, especially with doing some like blue shadows. I'm really excited to see how this comes out. I just finished my Miles and Venom illustration, and I am so incredibly happy with how this turned out. I definitely had to trust the process a lot when it came to doing a two-tone blue for Venom's design, doing both the highlights and the shading with blue, but I am just so incredibly happy with how this turned out. And I'm gonna go ahead and give you just a still shot now so you can see this. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. We're going ahead to meet Daniel to see what we can find on this new comic book day. We have arrived at the LCS. We're here with the boy Dan.
I'm gonna get those signs.
And LCS did not get all of their shipment from FedEx, which means we don't have all of our DC or indie books this week.
I'm coming for you.
FedEx, be on the lookout. So we got to hunt. Maybe pick up some things this week we weren't originally going to pick up. Maybe some stuff from last week, but we'll see. Today is the release of Wonder Man issue 3, and I am so excited to read this issue because Jerry Duggan and Mark Buckingham have absolutely been killing it on this miniseries. And now with Ultimate Impact Reborn out last week and a new Wonder Man Vin Lerner being introduced, I am very excited to see where this miniseries ends and where Ultimate Impact Reborn picks up. The LCS has restocked all of the Absolute line, and look how beautiful this is. We have Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Superman, Absolute Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern, Absolute Flash, Absolute Batman, and here soon we'll have Absolute Green Arrow. I just made it back home, and as you can see here, I have a pretty light stack this week. Both my DC and Image books did not arrive on time at my LCS, but that is okay. We will get them next week, fear not. So without further ado, let's get right into today's pickups. My favorite pickup of the week was actually not on my pull list and a back issue this week, and that is Chicken Devil issue number 1 by Brian Buccellato and Richard Sherman. This is a 5-issue miniseries that originally came out in 2021 and follows Mitchell Moss, a family-oriented hot chicken restaurant owner who now has become the unlikeliest of vigilantes as he is forced to protect his family as his former business partner has got entangled with the mob. And I am so excited to finally get my hands on this because I've heard nothing but good things about this miniseries, and I just love the art style of this by Richard Sherman. I highly recommend looking into this if you're someone that is looking for indie comic recommendations, you like ridiculousness in comics, alternative vigilante stories, and vigilante stories that aren't centered around superheroes necessarily. But coming into issue number 2 of the week, here we have, it's hard to believe that this series is already coming to an end. Here we have Psylocke Ninja issue number 5. This served as a origin and backstory for Psylocke, and if you did not know, she has a bit of a convoluted and complicated past, especially with the body swap arc in Uncanny X-Men, and I thought this did a really good job of tying up a lot of the loose ends of Psylocke's origin, as well as adding really interesting layers, especially with Elektra and the Hand. Coming into my last pickup of the week, here we have Wonder Man has quickly become one of my most anticipated pulls of the week every single month because this has just been such a fun miniseries following Simon Williams as a LA detective story, and this has just done an amazing job of introducing me to the character of Simon Williams and giving me a bit of background information on Wonder Man. I highly recommend picking this up if you're a fan of the Wonder Man TV show, looking to get into Wonder Man comics and start collecting. This is just a 5-issue miniseries following Simon Williams as a LA detective story as he and his friend Randolph are trying to solve this murder mystery and try to free their names. And I've just loved the setup of this so far from Jerry Duggan. I highly recommend picking this up. That is everything that I managed to pick up this week. Thank you all so much for watching. You have been killing it on the love and support here lately, absolutely blowing my mind. We are almost at 1,000 subscribers. I cannot believe I'm saying that number right now because that is insane to me. I am planning on doing a giveaway here in the next few weeks once I hit 1,000 on both YouTube as well as TikTok, so be sure to stay tuned for more details on that because I plan on doing a giveaway on both platforms as a way to show gratitude and a bit of thank you to all of you for all the love and support that you've given me over the past few months, coming up on a year now, which is crazy. We will be back next week for New Comic Book Day. I hope you all have an amazing weekend, spend some time with some loved ones, spend some time with yourself. Peace.